So we are going to welcome everyone. So tonight we have a special guest and I'm so excited because for real, this magical woman has actually changed my life forever. And I don't even think she knows it. So I'm excited to let her know. A few months ago, actually, we interacted and she did this big presentation at my broker's office. And she talked about feminine energy. And she talked about male energy and the difference between them and how we were supposed to actually have this symbiosis and this energy flowing that really creates something magical that a lot of us don't have, and that we almost conflict each other because we're trying to use the masculine energy when we're supposed to be actually the feminine energy and vice versa. And I felt very inspired to want to obviously have her on our Flipping with Mitch and Maeli live, because it changed my life and it reminded me of a lot of little things that I used to know and did and changed for whatever reason in business. And so it made me feel like that it would obviously inspire you guys and try and help. Who knows who it'll touch tonight, but I know for a fact you all will be in wow over the amazing content in which she's going to share with us tonight. Before I get to announce, obviously, our amazing host tonight, we do have a couple announcements. So we are actually doing a velocity banking and or speed banking class tomorrow night at my broker's office. So if you need some information behind that, or you want to be invited and you don't know about it, the link will actually be in the description below on our channel here. And it is for our local guests, but we will have a Zoom link. So if there's something that you're like, no, I've been dying to get to one of these classes and learn about real estate investing and learn about velocity banking, then make sure you click on the link and I'll get that here in a minute. While our host is doing her jam. But that'll be really exciting. And we are hosting a fun award ceremony for all the people that are local here on Friday night. And we'll explain a little bit more about that later. But without further ado, we want to do no other speaking here because we have a special guest and she's going to take up hopefully all of the time, because we are going to want to soak up all the energy and love that she has tonight. So please welcome Allyson Chavez. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Mwah.
Oh, Maeli, thank you so much. Mitch, thank you for having me on tonight. And I could wax eloquent about this topic for days and days. Don't worry, I won't do that to you tonight. But I do intend for us to have a really powerful evening together, to be interactive, to be engaging with each other, because this is something that has absolutely changed my life and the lives of women, whether they work with me long-term or whether they attend a class like Maeli did. Like, I had no idea that your life was changed forever, but that's my favorite thing to hear, is that maybe one little thing that I said hit you in a different way, that reminded you of how you once were, or just stirred something up, that life could be done in a different way at maybe a higher level. And so that's what this is all about today. So if you wouldn't mind indulging me for just a few minutes, I would like to give you a little bit of background so you understand that I really do know what I'm talking about, and I have a little bit of authority, and I'm not just like, speaking out my butt. Like, I really do know what I'm talking about. Sorry if anybody got offended by me saying the word but. Anyway, I remember it really, really well. I had been working day in and day out, growing my business, scaling my business, trying to launch my business for 2 years. I was in high levels of anxiety, enormous amounts of pressure. I was way, way outside my comfort zone. But I remember the day when I finally did it. I finally arrived, like what all the gurus say, like when you finally get there and you had arrived. And to me, arriving was my first $20,000 month. And I remember feeling more than anything, I felt exhausted. I didn't celebrate. I didn't know how to celebrate. It was almost a surreal feeling, except I do remember feeling enormous amounts of exhaustion. And even though I was proud of what I had accomplished, I really just wanted to throw the covers over my head and sleep until Saturday, because I woke up with the same thought day after day after day. And that thought was, God, I don't want to do this day. And it didn't matter what day it was. I was in so much burnout. I was in so much exhaustion. I felt like I had efforted myself into the ground, that I just wanted to sleep all week long, because Saturday was the one day of the week that I let myself play just a little bit. Now, has anybody had moments or seasons of their life where they have felt like this, where you're kind of feel like you're running on autopilot? Put a 1 in the chat if you can relate to that, where you kind of do the thing because you think that there's really no other choice other than to do the thing, but you're numbing or you're hitting those milestones, but you're kind of feeling empty inside. Or you're like me, you really just kind of wanted to escape your life, even though your life is good. Like my life wasn't a garbage fire, right? It wasn't a dumpster fire, but like it was just like, oh, there was just so much all the time. Oh, okay, we've got some 1s in this chat. Okay, so I know that I'm talking to the right audience here. Like it didn't matter what it was. There was so much burnout going on. And I know that you're like me. You're ambitious, you're high achievers. You've got a difference to make in this world. You've got high goals, lots of things that you want to achieve. And I'm the same way. But I was so burned out and I was so exhausted all the time that when I reached my goals, I just felt tired. Like to my bones, I felt tired. And then I was getting all these conflicting messages because on the one hand, I was really, really tired. But on the other hand, it was really cool to have that level of success. I've got 4 kids. So we were flying our kids to Hawaii. We were going to Disney World in Florida a couple times a year. And we were doing all of the stereotypical things, remodeled the house, driving our dream cars, like right? Like on the outside looking in, we were really successful. But I felt the opposite of that. And I remember when my business mentor was like, great job, double it next month. I remember like my heart fell to my stomach. And I thought, are you out of your ever loving mind? Like I just gave every bit of me to get there. And now you want me to double it? Like, how can I possibly double more than everything I've already done? I thought that more success meant more effort, and there was just no way that I could actually do that. So what was really discouraging to me about that is that I felt the same way no matter what milestone I hit. So I told myself, oh, I will arrive once I hit my first $5,000 month, but I didn't feel it. So then I was like, okay, maybe at 10,000, then I'll feel successful and I'll feel comfortable with money. Maybe at 15, like it didn't matter what milestone that I would give myself that I would feel once I reached it. I still felt like it was just out of my grasp. And so what it did is it popped me into chase mode. So I was always chasing that next dollar on that next deal on that next client. And it was exhausting. It was exhausting. And more than that, my soul just felt sucked dry. So like any woman, I started thinking, okay, well, clearly there's something wrong with me then. So what's wrong with me? I'm following the success model, right? I'm following the masculine model of success, which is hustle, grind, production, achievement, rinse, repeat. I've been doing it for years. I'd watched people around me, especially men, do this with enormous success and they were thriving. So why was I feeling the opposite? I felt like a fraud. If I can pull back the curtain for just a minute, I gained 45 pounds in 2 years because I was so scared of failing and so scared of falling that I started this wild love affair with Costco-sized bags of peanut M&Ms. And I could not keep those things out of my cake hole, you guys. Like, I was just like, I would go through them in 5 days. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Those tubs of M&Ms. Like, I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I'm running out. And I'd send my husband out to Costco for more M&Ms because I couldn't sleep at night. I would wake up at between 2 and 3 every morning with my guts twisted in anxiety. And my thoughts were going like this: what in the world have you done? You've created this lifestyle for your family and they expect it. So what if you can't maintain this, much less grow it? What if you lose it all? So I didn't have the right mindset behind me. I was working in terror and under enormous amounts of pressure, which was popping me into lack and scarcity. And I was unhappy. I was unhappy. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought this was going to mean this about me. And it didn't. But here's the thing. One day, I made this startling discovery. I discovered that I am not a smaller, less hairy man. I'm a woman. And I'd been operating in 99% masculine energy, building my business. And honestly, my friends, like my entire life, I had been building my life in masculine energy that I didn't even know how to be a woman. Like I had the doing nailed. The being, Not so much, not so much. Put a 2 in the chat if you can feel me with that. Like, yeah, give me something to do. Tell me how to do it. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. But the being feels a little bit more esoteric to you. It kind of feels like, okay, show me the strategy. Give me the strategy because I'm addicted to it. Give me the strategy for being, and then I'll nail that strategy, right? But like, like they're like, you don't do your way into being. Like you just can't. Those are two totally different energies. So what I realized that I was in so much masculine energy that who I am at my core and why I'm here and the difference I'm here to make got drowned out in all of that noise. And that exhausts you as a woman. When you drown out your feminine, it robs you of so much. If you're a woman here and you can relate to that, where you just feel like your essence has kind of been drowned out. And we're not vilifying any energies. We're not vilifying masculine or feminine or any of that, but where you feel that like kind of like your soul has been drowned out in the pursuit of success, pop up a 5 in the chat if you can relate to that. Because I find that a lot. Yeah, I find that so much is that when we're sacrificing one energy for another, who we are, the essence of us just robs us of so much. And I realized that the inner price that I was paying for this outer success was way, way too high of a price. And I was no longer willing to pay that price. So I set off on a mission and I wanted to create a different model of success, one that was tailored to women, one that played to our unique gifts and our traits and our qualities, where we could fall in love with life again and still have phenomenal results. Now, I know that there are men here in this call tonight, and you're going to find enormous value in this as well, because this affects you too. Masculine energy and feminine energy affects you as well. But if you're thinking to yourself, oh, holy cow, my wife is more masculine than she is feminine, or the women who are online going, oh crap, I'm a smaller, less hairy man. Holy cow, I'm like a long-haired dude. like it's okay. We got this. My intention is for everybody to leave with so much value in this about how you can support your women to be more in their feminine and to trust their feminine more. And also for you ladies who are on the line, to really trust that as well, and to understand like why these things aren't working for you as well as they might be working for your male counterparts. And to just get a greater understanding of how these two energies work together and how you can get them to dance together and play together rather than fight quite so much. Now, by incorporating what I'm going to teach you tonight, I went from that $20,000 month, which I felt like I ripped my heart out and gave my entire blood, like my whole blood supply, like I felt like I gave my whole life for that. And there was enormous struggle and there was enormous stress and burnout with that. I went from $10,000 months and $20,000 months with that experience to $150,000 months in play and in fun and in relaxation. I went from being 45 pounds overweight to 4.5 months later being my ideal weight. And it was easy and it was effortless and it was fast. And I had such great support around me, and I kept it off for 4 years. So it wasn't like I yo-yoed back up 9 months later. I got out of a defiant relationship with my spouse and got into partnership with him. And I think most importantly, I went from hoping and praying that I've always known there's a God. Like I've never had a problem with a higher power. I've always had that kind of a connection, but it's always been like, God, are you there? Please help me. Like I went from hoping and praying that God was aware of me and would help me to having a bedrock certainty that God is in every detail of my life and he wants me to succeed even more than I want to succeed. Now, I can only speak for myself, but this is like, I'm no different from you, except my hair's probably a little bit bigger and then I have a big smile like that. Like it's really the only difference. And I know if it works for me from where I was, I know that it can work for you if that's what you choose as well. So I am going to share my screen with you because I have some slides. I want to share with you some data. We're going to talk about some data. We're going to talk about some research, some slides tonight so you can understand how these different energies work. Again, my name is Allyson Chavez. I'm a success and life coach for professional God-centered women. And I teach women a different success model. I teach them how to get success without the struggle in every areas of their life, because life is working for you, but there's a higher way to get life to work for you with greater ease and greater flow. And that's what I'm all about. My mission is to teach women how to tap into masculine and live in their feminine instead of the other way around, so that they can end the struggle and live their life in joy. And that's how I'm wanting to heal the world, as one woman at a time. So we're going to talk about masculine and feminine energies tonight. And first, I need to lay down the groundwork that we're not talking about battleless sexes. I'm not talking about men versus women. We're not doing any of those things, because everybody on the planet has both feminine and masculine energies. And these energies are meant to work together in balance and in alliance. And what we have been taught through thousands and thousands of years, it hasn't just happened over the last 50 years. This has been going on for thousands of years. We've been taught compliance or defiance in these two energies, which has put us at odds with each other and make it really hard for us to work together as men and women, because of the way that we're wired and the way that these energies work together. But they're meant to complement each other. So they're equal and also opposite, and very, very powerful energies. When we balance them, a balance is not 50-50. And I want to be really clear about that. Balance is not 50-50. Balance is, if you're a woman, it's more like 70 in your feminine, 30 in your masculine. If you're a man, it's just the opposite, 70 in your masculine, 30 in your feminine. This is what the balance is. So we're gonna kind of deconstruct that tonight, unpack that tonight, so you can see what that looks like in your own life. It's important that women realize that we can't only ever be in our feminine and not in our masculine. And we live in a society that really, really values masculine energy. So it makes it hard for us women to trust the feminine energy. But we have to learn how to do that. We've got to deprogram ourselves just a little bit and retrain ourselves to trust the feminine more and more, and to tap into that masculine, simply because we can't afford to do it the way that we've always done it. It's sucking us dry, and it's killing us softly from the inside. And I'll share with you some statistics with that later on. So let's break down feminine and masculine energy. Feminine energy, the primary function of feminine is desire, and the primary function of masculine energy is the production of that desire. Masculine energy thrives on pleasing the feminine, and the masculine is divinely designed to serve the feminine. And I want to say that again. Masculine energy is divinely designed to serve feminine, not the other way around. Now, it's not that feminine doesn't serve masculine. Feminine thrives on inspiring the masculine. So when the masculine pleases the feminine, and the feminine is pleased and inspires the masculine, it just becomes this really beautiful give and receive experience that we have together as men and women. I want everybody to try this activity with me for just a second. Now, where you are, as long as you're not driving, all right? So anybody who's driving, keep your eyes closed. But if you can, I want you to close your eyes with me. And I just want you to take a nice deep breath in for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold for 2. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, and in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, and exhale, 2, 3, 4. One more time, a nice deep breath in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, and exhale, 2, 3, 4. Now just let your breathing go back to normal, but I just want you to observe, how do you feel in your body right now? And for those of you who are on Zoom, or who can comment in the chat, like, how do you feel right now, just from closing your eyes and taking 3 deep breaths in your body? Feel free to pop that in the chat. Calm. Maybe says calm. April says calm. Mm-hmm. Do you feel, Sasha says relaxed. Oh, I love it. I love it. Calm, relaxed. I get feedback like it feels spacious. Like I feel spacious. I feel expansive. Adam says ready to go. I love it, Adam. Lighter, peace. Vero says peace. Love it. Love it. This is what happens when you get into your feminine energy. So what every one of you just experienced who did that experiment with me was feminine energy. And this is where we all want to live anyway. We want to live in light. We want to live feeling peace. We want to feel relaxed and calm. But we have to get out of our head and connect more with our body in order to do that. And this is just one of the many ways that you can start getting more and more familiar with your feminine and how it feels to be in your feminine energy. All right, let's move to the next slide if it's going to work with me here. Okay, my favorite analogy to explain masculine and feminine energy is the river and the riverbank. The river is feminine energy. If you only have the river, but you have no riverbank, you actually don't have very much power and you have no direction. The water and the river just goes everywhere, and it actually gets quite destructive. It leaves a lot of chaos in its wake. But if you only have a riverbank, which is masculine energy, and you have no river, the riverbank serves no purpose. There's no point. There's no point to have a riverbank without a river for it to contain, for it to support, for it to direct and make more powerful. But if you only have a river and no riverbank, chaos ensues and destruction ensues. We need both of them. Now, this right here is a list of different traits and characteristics of masculine energy and feminine energy. Now, I'm going to break down most of these. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's going to give you a really great launching pad to see where you are in the way that you experience life and how you do life. So I want you to just look as we're going through this and breaking this down and just think to yourself, all right, do I lean more towards the left side of the list, which is feminine, or do I lean more to the right side of the list, which is masculine? Which one do I spend more time in? And this is just so that you can have a greater awareness of where you are and who you're being in that moment. All right, so we're going to break these down one at a time. Feminine energy is the being energy, and the masculine energy is the doing energy. When a man has to be in being energy, it is actually really exhausting to him. Men are really wired for action. They're wired to be doing something all the time. It's why men look for the point, or they look for the problem. They look for better solutions, because that's a masculine energy. That's the energy of doing. The energy of being, actually, for women, if we can get into our being energy, it fuels us and gives us more energy for those tasks that we're doing. Being energy fuels us as women. It puts us in something that's called flow. So the ideas come to us more easily. We have less resistance to surprises. That's what we'll call them, surprises that pop up throughout the day, or detours that we have to take every day because life happens throughout our day. Things are just a whole lot easier to do. Our energy lasts longer, and the doing has ease because we're in a lighter energy. We're in the energy that we're wired for, which is the being energy, the experience energy. Feminine energy is intuitive and masculine energy is logical. So what does this mean? This means that when you're in your head all the time, you're in masculine energy. When you are intuitive, our intuition hits us in our body more than it hits us in our head. That's why when I told you to close your eyes and to just take some breaths, I got you out of your head for a couple of seconds, and I got you into your body, and it's much quieter there. It's much calmer there. It's much more relaxed there, as people had put in the chat, than it is to be in your head all the time. Intuitive hits create a whole lot of mental conflict and confusion in us as women when we've been masculinized. And we've been masculinized by society, because intuition is our mental faculty that picks up vibration. And many times when we're looking for ideas, the intuitive hits we get aren't logical, because it's not responding to a timeline. And logic has a whole lot to do with a timeline. And so it puts us in this whole back and forth. Can I trust this hit that I'm getting? I don't really know. Like, we start second guessing when we get intuitive hits, when we've been too masculinized as women, because it doesn't make logical sense in the moment. But when we understand that intuition is responding to vibration and not timeline, and like Steve Jobs said, we can only connect the dots backward. When we follow those intuitive hits that we get, we follow that feminine energy. When all is said and done, we can look behind us and be like, oh my gosh, that was actually the least amount of risk I could have ever taken. That was less risky than I ever thought. And it actually makes It made logical sense now that it's over than it does right at the very beginning with all of that. But when we're spending way too much time in our head and we're not in our body, we second guess our intuition all the time. I love Albert Einstein, and he said the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the logical mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And I want to switch I want to just substitute just a couple of words in there and see how this lands with you. The feminine energy is a sacred gift and the masculine energy is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the masculine and has forgotten the feminine. And isn't that true? We live in a society that really, really values production and achievement and doing and massive action and make it happen and figure it out and all of that energy. And that's powerful energy. That's an energy of creation, but that's not the only energy of creation. And in fact, even just saying it makes my soul just want to collapse in on itself, because when we're always about production and achievement and we're always about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, it's impossible to live in the present moment, which is where we get our intuitive hits and living in the moment and being in our body. And it just robs us of so much for that. And it affects both men and women. Like if nothing changes with this, we get women that are more and more frustrated, women that are more and more shut down, that get angry all the time. We get more adrenal blowout and more adrenal fatigue. We get sick more often. Women are masculinized, men have been feminized, and men have actually been neutered. That's what society has done to men. Men don't know whether they're coming or going with women because they don't know what's appropriate anymore. And we don't know. So nobody's staying in our lane. We don't know how to play nice together in the sandbox. Our communication is much harder than it needs to be because we're not able to appreciate our divine inherent differences and be able to work together in harmony. And if nothing changes, women feel less fulfilled, more frustrated. Our radiance is gone. Long before we die physically, our radiance is gone. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. If nothing changes, how is this going to affect men? Men get more and more frustrated, more and more angry. And what you men do is you check out and you just avoid the problem, because what can you do? So you go home and you do nothing. And the men that I've talked to don't feel lit up by that. They actually feel a lot of shame around that, by the way. That's not feminine energy. That's no energy at all. That's neutered. And we just can't live like that anymore. It's costing so much for both men and women to be sacrificing one for the other when we don't need to be doing that. All right, let's move on. All right. Feminine energy is playful energy and masculine energy is the thinking energy. Women, when you're playful, some really interesting things actually happen in your body and happen in your brain. When you're playful, you're open. It opens up that part of your brain that actually starts looking for solutions instead of like, how are we going to figure this out? I got work to do, right? When you're playful, we're flexible, we're light, and we're actually present in the moment. Men, for those of you who have female colleagues, and those of you who have women at home, when your women are playful, like, how does that feel to be around a playful woman who's not, and playful isn't silly, but playful is just like, oh yeah, like, doesn't that energize you as well? It just adds so much when you're with somebody who's being playful about whatever solution they need to come to, and it actually opens you up, and it opens you up to some really, really great ideas and great conversations. Now, on the other hand, when women are in that masculine energy, when we're in our head and we're thinking, this is when we're down to business. Did you see my face get so intense right there? We're like, we don't have time to play. We've got lives to save. We've got deals to close, right? We get super, super serious and really focused and quite intense. And it pops us into something that's called single focus. And this takes an enormous amount of energy for us as women to do and to maintain because of how we're wired. Men are wired for an energy called single focus. Single focus means here's the mission, And that's all I'm thinking about is the mission. That is single focus. You do one thing at a time and you do it right on. Oh, Mitch says this is spot on. Okay, I'm speaking in your language as well, right? Single focus is fan-freaking-tastic. We love our men in single focus. Now, what women have is called diffused awareness. Now, diffuse means to pour out over everything, all right? Any of you who do essential oils or not, but you have a diffuser or a humidifier is another word for a diffuser at home. It just doesn't go in a straight line. It diffuses out everywhere and fills the room. And that's what women have. Women have diffused awareness. So men tend to think that this means women can focus on 3 or 4 things at a time. That's not what that means. It means we don't focus. Women don't naturally focus because that's not how our brains are wired. We're wired for connection. We're wired for communication. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But because we have this diffuse awareness, which means everything in our environment we're aware of. And ladies, tell me if this is true. Everything in your environment talks to you. And it doesn't just talk to you, it yells at you. And it tells you what you need to do. Put me away. I don't belong here. Like you go into the kitchen and you're like, this thing, like my kids will ask me to make cookies. And I cannot make cookies in a dirty kitchen because there's too much confusion going on in the kitchen. If there's, and that's the crumbs. It's the crumbs on the counter. If the crumbs are on the counter, they are yelling at me. What is wrong with you? Put me away. I belong in the garbage can, not on the countertop, right? Like it speaks to us. It's why we're like, if you pull out the toaster to make some toast, then you better push that toaster back 4 inches where it belongs. Otherwise, it will just grate on us. And that's not us being picky or nitpicky as women. It's because everything in our environment, absolutely, it talks to us all the time and it yells at us and it condemns us all the time, men. And men who have a mission, and the mission is to go from the downstairs to the upstairs into the kitchen, and you step over the blanket that's on the stairs on your way to the kitchen, and your wife is so upset, like, why don't you freaking pick up the blanket? You're on your way to the room anyway, because pick up the blanket wasn't the mission. So it wasn't that the men are being just complete jackholes about everything and aren't wanting to please you, because masculine thrives on pleasing feminine, is that they don't see it. They literally don't see it. That's not the mission. The mission is, I'm hungry, I'm going to the kitchen to find food. So they literally don't see it. All right. And men and women think that we're different versions of each other, and we're not different versions of each other at all. Like men are not misbehaving women and women are not shorter, indulgent, emotionally indulgent men. Like we're not. We're wired completely differently. But when we can understand this and understand why playful energy in the feminine helps us find solutions so much faster, because it doesn't take as much energy for us. When we have to be, I just saw Denise's comment. I'm laughing out loud here, right? When we have to think and we have to just focus on something, like ladies, like seriously, if I'm sitting down and I'm creating content, I have to set a timer for 15 minutes and I've got to be like, all right, here's the rules. You have to focus on this content for 15 minutes. No, you can't check your text. You got to turn your phone over and turn off notifications. No, you can't check your email. No, you can't go up and get a drink. And it's not because I don't want to write the content. Like when you got to sit down and make calls, I know you go through this as well, because you've got diffused awareness. It's not that you're trying to put off, although sometimes we do, let's be honest, sometimes we're procrastinating, but more often than not at this level, that's you play in success and achievement. Really, procrastination really is not the name of your game, but you're like, you got to remind yourself, you got to focus. And then when the alarm goes off, I'm like this, oh, thank you. Okay, now I can do something else and I can get my energy back. Now, sometimes I'll play a game with myself and it will actually energize me, and then I'll get into the flow of whatever I'm creating in that moment. And so I'm not in that single focus quite so much, but I'm in the being energy more than the doing energy. So it's fueling it. But that's why we have a That's why we have, oh my gosh, David and Mitch, I am so grateful for your comments. Like, yes, this is true. This is absolutely true. And there's nothing wrong with you and there's nothing wrong with her. This is just the way that we're wired, and we can understand these different energies and how we live with them personally, and then how we live with them as we're cohabitating in our homes and working with opposite sex in our workplaces. Like, oh man, life gets so magical so quickly when you can understand this and then honor these different energies that we're in. All right. So we get super single focused, and then it takes a whole lot of energy out of us. And then we're like, oh, I'm good for nothing for the rest of the day. So ladies, what's going to help benefit you the most is just to be playful with the things that you've got going on at work. Play with it, flirt with it. Flirt. Oh my gosh, flirt's like another F word in society these days because there's so much baggage that goes along with flirting. Flirting somehow has been made to think that there's some sort of a price tag or some sort of an obligation that comes with flirting. That's not flirting at all. Flirting is just enjoying yourself. And there's no strings attached to a flirt. So think about the one place where men and women can both flirt in absolute safety is with babies. And we all flirt with babies all the time. We're like, and we make faces and we try to engage with them. That's flirting. So we want to do that with our work. Ladies, if you want to stay in your feminine energy, we want to flirt with it. We want to be like, oh, we're going to have a good time. You know, you're going to have a good time because you know, you like playing with me. You know, this is going to be so much fun. And it works really well. And men as well. Like men, you've got playfulness in you too. And so use the playfulness to your advantage as well, because remember, we're all wired with both of these energies in us. And it's, oh God, life just gets so amazing. You get so much more done too, when you have such a better time along the way to that next big achievement that you want in your relationships, that you want in your business, you want in your body, that you want in your spirituality, like all of it. It just opens you up so much. Imbalanced thinking versus imbalance. Sorry, let me be articulate here for just a moment. When there is an imbalance between our playfulness and our thinking energy, that actually burns us out as women. So ladies, I want you to be really aware of that if you're down to business all the time, you're not a whole lot of fun to be with. And you know this, and everybody else in the room knows it as well. And we love you, but it burns you out. It burns us out as women. And men, how fun is it to work with a woman who's in her masculine all the time? Like this is, I've created a really safe space. Is it, and I know you love your women, and I know you respect your women and your coworkers and all of that, but is it a little bit difficult to work with a woman who's in her masculine all the time? Or is it a little bit tricky to work with a woman who's in her masculine all the time? Put a 1 in the chat if it's a little bit tricky to work with a masculine woman. He's like, yeah, 1. Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. See, it's difficult. We make the waters really hard to navigate for the men in our lives when they're working with women who have been masculinized, because masculine energy is a pushing energy and feminine energy is a pulling energy, and we need both. Feminine energy is attracting energy. That's that pulling energy, and that push energy. And the masculine is that sometimes it's pushing things out of the way, but it's like pushing things forward, and we need both of them. And if both of you are showing up in masculine energy, there's a whole lot more push and there's a whole lot more friction going on, which means there's more difficulty in the relationship and in getting the deals done than actually needs to be, because you're both in the same energy. And because the universe requires us to be in balance, you're either going to pop him into more of his feminine energy. And not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but you're so much more naturally wired for it than they are. So it's so much easier for you when you'll just allow yourself to just be a woman and to be in that feminine energy in that space. You're going to feel like this collective energetic breath in the office, like, oh, okay, everything feels balanced. Like it's magic. It's magic when women will be in their feminine, because then men and women just work so much better when we're operating in the right energies for us. The feminine is all about beauty, and masculine is all about functionality. Now, functionality with a man is represented with the car bumpers that are duct taped on the car, right? Does it work? Is he going to get the job done? It's good enough, right? The aesthetics don't matter. Like, who cares? It works. We're going to get this done. Now, women are all about beauty and all about like beautifying life in all of its realms. That's the job of the feminine, is that desire and it's that beauty. And it's not just the beauty of a physical environment, although that's important. It's beautiful conversations, it's beautiful sounds, it's beautiful smells, it's beautiful tastes. All of those things are very sensual. And we've been taught that sensual is pornographic, and it's not. Sensual just means we're connected with our senses, and that is feminine. So feminine and that beauty that feminine is all about enhances the environment, it enhances the functionality. Let me give you a really great example of functionality. We've all seen a bachelor's pad, right? This is my son's bachelor pad. He's 20. Now, this is right when you open the door, okay, of his apartment. So you've got the camping chairs and you've got the card table, which is their dinner table, but they don't actually eat dinner there. They actually eat dinner over the sink because it's far more efficient to just eat dinner over the sink, because this is their gaming table. For those of you who also have a little bit of nerd in you, and I birthed a whole family of nerds. It's wonderful. He loves D&D. They're all big gamers, including my daughter in our family. So okay, the chat is blowing up. Adam, I see nothing wrong here. There is nothing wrong here. All right. Absolutely nothing wrong here, Adam. And I love it so much. But you can tell no girls live here, right? Because he's got his skeleton. His name is Bones Malone. Because it's funny. They have one beat up over chair in front of the gaming TV, and they have, they eat over the sink. They've got their, one bowl per person, one silverware per person. I'm just like, wow, this is awesome. Now, please do not, David, one guy played himself to death, but with a smile on his face, you'll see. So of course, all the men are like, this is heaven. Please do not be deceived by the rug that's on the floor. That was donated by my son's roommate's mother. Okay, so any attempts at prettying up the place were made by a woman, not by any man. And this is the difference. This is functional, right? This works for them. But for women, there's not a whole lot of beauty in this to really enhance the environment. All right. So this is just a real world example of that bachelor pad. It's functional. It's not necessarily beautiful. And fun little pops of color really make a difference in a space, right? And that's the feminine that just, it's, fresh flowers I used to think were frivolous back when I was a shorter, less hairy dude. And I was like, why would we have flowers? There's nothing practical about flowers at all, except, wow, it just makes such a difference in the space that you're in. It's life, it's vibration. It's more than I realized at the time. They're only missing Little Caesars. Oh, well, Trevor, do you want to know what they were eating? Bags and bags of marshmallow mateys. So Little Caesars was way outside their budget at the time. They would just eat no milk. Don't worry, there was no milk, but they did have lots and lots of marshmallow mateys. So he was one happy camper. So anyway, and it's just fun, right? We just laugh at that because it's so relatable. Like, yes, they're total dudes that live there, and that is completely fine. I remember years and years ago, we went to a church activity and the men were in charge. And it was like a dessert cook-off, like it was a taste-off. So I was super excited about that because I really, really love food. And I love sweets, right? Who doesn't love sweets? And so we went to this activity, and I think that the sub-theme under the dessert taste-off was the anti-women. Not that they were sexist in any way, but it was, okay, not only like we're going to have the tables out and the chairs, but we're not going to have tablecloths on the tables because that's just a waste of time. What, a centerpiece? What is a centerpiece? Are you kidding me? Like, that's not practical. We're just going to throw out the tables. I think they went to the supply closet and then just grabbed, whatever bowls, whatever plasticware there was there, like styrofoam bowls, some paper bowls. Who cares what's there? Let's get it done. And they were really, really proud of themselves for this. And I remember walking in there going, there's something decidedly lacking about this. What is this? And you guys have all been to like a church function or a function at a hotel where you peek under the tablecloth and those tables are nasty. Like they're cracked and they've got marker and crayon on them. Like they're ugly. They're so ugly. That's why they cover them. Like, but I'm like, oh, this is what happens when there's not feminine to balance out the masculine. It was functional and it was a great night, but I remembered it not because of the amazing desserts, but I remembered because it wasn't a very beautiful experience like that, that included all of my senses. And that like the feminine brings so much value to the table. Oh, gum. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just like gum on the tables. Yes. All right. Moving on. The feminine is dynamic and the masculine is sturdy. Now, the definition of dynamic is this: characterized by constant change, activity, or progress. Sturdy means strongly and solidly built. Now, this is one thing that society does give us as women, as feminine, is the right to change our mind at any time for any reason, and men aren't allowed to question it. That's part of being dynamic. That's part of being feminine. Because remember, dynamic is characterized by constant change. Well, constant change is part of that diffused awareness, right? We got distracted. People label it as ADHD. And I don't know that it's so much ADHD adult onset in women as it is just real diffused awareness that's coming into play and we didn't realize it. But here's the thing where it's so beautiful. The feminine is not static. Okay. The river is not static. There's a problem if the river is just standing still. The river needs to be moving. The river bank is what's static. And that's what we need. We need the river bank to be static and to be sturdy. Masculine gives feminine the structure and the safety that's required so that feminine can be dynamic. Let me show you a real world example of this. I love this GIF so much. Take a look at that woman. Watch where her feet go. She can't, can she dip? And can she kick her foot out? And her other foot literally leaves the ground. Could she do that without that man holding her? She can't. She'll fall. She'll injure herself. Okay. So she can't do that without him there. Now take that woman out. Now, is there any reason for that man to be doing what he's doing if there's no woman in his arms? Like, no, it would be silly. He's like, whoa, look at me. But there's nothing there. That's why we need each other. The feminine needs the dynamic to be sturdy and solid and supportive of her so that she can twirl and she can dip and she can fly and she can leap and she can soar. And the masculine loves that. Loves to be able to support and serve the feminine in that way, but we need each other in order to be able to do that and to have the richest, most fullest experience that we want to have. It requires both of those characteristics of the masculine and the feminine. Feminine is circular or spiral, and masculine is linear. And the easiest way for me to explain this is through conversations between men and women and how they differ. Conversations between men are very linear. They're very logical. They make a whole lot of sense. They start at A, they go to B, they go to C, and so on and so forth. They're very logical. They're very linear. If you've ever been on a girls' night or popped in on a girls' night that your wife or your partner, even your daughter has had, our conversations aren't linear. Our conversations are circular or spiral. They go like this. And also because of the feminine quality of being dynamic, they also shoot off in every direction. So we might start at A, but very quickly we jump to K, and then K reminds us of B, and then B hits us to the hashtag, and then the hashtag reminds us of Q, and then Q circles back to A, and then A goes to the number 4, and we go everywhere. And I'll bet you women are laughing, but you're like, yeah, that's actually exactly what happens, because somebody says one thing and it shoots us off in this other direction, and all the women can follow that, but the men can't follow that. It gets confusing, not because you're stupid, men, because you're not, and not because you're simpletons, because you're not, but because you don't have that kind of energy. where it just goes everywhere. And very soon you stop trying to follow the conversation, because by the time you've gone to your vault to get some information that's going to add to that topic of conversation, they've skipped ahead 3 topics and it's no longer relevant. And so for the men, it's just like, let's just go into the next room and let's just talk sports for a while, because we've got statistics, we've got numbers, we've got we've got stuff that are tried and true, and we can follow all of that. And that's just the difference in the way that we're wired. And that's why men are looking for the point, or they're looking for the problem. And if there's no point and there's no problem in a conversation between a man and a woman, a man gets frustrated really quickly, because remember, that masculine energy is the doing energy. So if there's no point, then why are you sharing this with me? Like, why do I need to remember this? Remember, he's mission focused. So he's looking for the point. Where's the mission? Or he's looking for the problem so we can help you with a solution to that problem. But women aren't looking for that. Women are looking for connection. And we're looking for that experience. We're looking for that relatability. So when we can understand, like, oh, hun, all I want you to do right now is listen while I just kind of go off in all of these directions, and I'll tell you what I need you to remember. Then the men are like, okay, I can do that, but please not all night. Because what we do, because women think men are misbehaving women, and they're not, we tend to treat women like our girlfriends, and they're not. And they don't have the patience that our girlfriends have for us to go off on all of these different tangents. So just remember, ladies, that your man is a man. He's not a naughty woman. He's a man. And so save your tangents for your girlfriends, who will appreciate it, and get to the point with your husband. And he'll really, really appreciate that. And then you'll feel a greater connection with him, and he'll feel a greater connection with you because he served you. So it's just, it's so simple. It's not always easy, but it is really, really simple. All right, here's the hardest one for my high achieving ladies. The feminine energy is vulnerable and masculine energy is protective. Now, can I pull back the curtain here for just a little bit and be vulnerable here for just a second? Okay, we all know, because I made it really clear at the beginning. I realized, like, oh crap, I'm a short dude. I didn't realize that. I thought I was a woman, but I don't know how to be a woman. I just know how to, like, try to behave like a man with long hair and tends to weep from time to time. And so at this level, the way that high achieving women protect themselves is through perfectionism. And here's how it plays out with perfectionism with women. And women, tell me if I'm tracking right. All right. So if you can relate to this, and I want you to put that in the chat, because I'm pretty sure I'm spot on with this, because I've talked to lots of women at your level who relate with this. When you're a perfectionist, you have impossible standards for you, nobody else. All right. You've got reasonable standards for the most part for everybody else, but you put impossible standards on you. And so you always have to look like you're put together, right? You've got the jacket, you've got the Louis Vuitton bag, you've got your hair done, you've got your nails done, like you walk with purpose, like, and you're kind of being a dude about it, but like, you're there, like, you've got this, like, this is your protection. Because at this level, if somebody sees how you, like, quote, really are on the inside, your greatest terror is not that people will know that you're not perfect, because you know you're not perfect, but you're afraid you'll lose credibility. So vulnerability for a high achieving woman is really, really scary for her, because she's afraid that if she shows up to the office and she's a hot mess that day, she's going to lose the deal, because she's too emotional, and nobody's going to trust her now. But here's the problem with that. Because that protective energy is masculine energy, what happens is people actually can't relate to you. This was mind blowing to me when I got this feedback myself. I got feedback and people were like, I don't really want to be your friend because I can never measure up to you. Like, I can never be as good as you are. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm friendly. Like, I'm friendly and I'm approachable, and my feelings were totally hurt by that. But when I got over that and I started thinking about it, I was like, when do I really tell anybody? And not that you're going to show up to the office in sweats and no bra and snot everywhere, because like you're not going to do that any either in the name of vulnerability, right? But I found that I was learning so much deeply about people, and they didn't know anything about me because I wasn't sharing it with them. I was in so much masculine energy. I was being protective of myself and protective of others. But what was happening was they couldn't relate to me. So they didn't really trust me. Like that is the price tag that we're paying, ladies, of not being vulnerable and not being honest. And it's very, very scary for us because we're afraid we'll be taken advantage of, because probably in our past, when we have been vulnerable, it's led to pain before. But vulnerability is actually a superpower of the feminine, because vulnerability makes you instantly relatable. So when I was writing this, you guys, I wrote a freaking script. When this presentation started as a word for word script, and I took it to my mentor at the time, and I was really proud of it because I'm a good writer. So I was like, he's going to look at this. He's going to be like, oh, this is really good. Oh, this is really awesome. Like really good. And do you know what he did? He shredded that thing to bits. He was like, Allyson, you are teaching feminine and masculine energy. And this thing is so structured, because I was like, I'm working on memorizing it so I won't have to have any notes. And he's like, are you kidding me? This is an hour-long presentation. You're going to work out with any notes. Is that feminine or masculine, Allyson? And I was like, oh, shit. Ah, dang it. Like, I teach this. I teach this, but I've been masculinized as well. And so I'm a work in progress as well. And April, now I feel good about showing up to my Zoom with no makeup. You go, girl. That's right. And no apologies either. Men don't ever show up for Zoom calls in makeup, and they always look fantastic. So we can as well. And I agree with Maeli, even though I don't see you, April. You are beautiful always. It's true. It's absolutely true. Women have a little special something about it. We'll talk about it in a minute. But vulnerability, if you won't be vulnerable, and in relationships too, when men and women, when spouses and partners won't be vulnerable with each other, it causes so much damage in the relationship. And it's what creates safety is that vulnerability in relationships. And that's a totally different talk for a totally different time. But the greatest healing that you can do with a partner, if you're feeling estranged from them, or if you're feeling like whatever might be going on, the fastest way to heal it is to be vulnerable with each other, because then you create safety with each other. And men, you become a soft spot, a place to land. And ladies, you become a soft space to land as well for your man too. And it just, oh man, your relationships can heal so quickly when you're both vulnerable. So my whole point with this is like, this is a lifelong journey, right? I'm a work in progress as well. I've realized that, the it's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine mask is coming at a really, really high cost. It keeps us from connecting. It keeps us from living. So here's my question, ladies, those of you who are on live and in the chat, how many of you are feeling like a shorter, less hairy man right about now? Put a 3 in the chat if you're feeling like, oh crap, I'm a dude. Oh, I do more masculine than I do feminine. Remember I asked you to do that at the beginning, like where do you lean more towards? Oh, Mitch, I love that. The destination is death. Everything before that is the journey. Beautiful. So I was just feeling like a shorter, less hairy man. Woo! This is really powerful awareness, really, really powerful awareness. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, Mahia or Maia as a 3. Maeli, well, for sure before I met you. Okay, awesome. Oh, wonderful. Yep. Okay. All right. Never fear. All right. We don't need to eat 8 dozen cookies to soothe ourselves right now. Like we don't need to dive off the cliff yet. We're like, there's hope. I promise. There's light. There's light at the end of the tunnel, but this must change if we're going to have big goals and a life. We have sacrificed living for life, and we can't do that anymore. So M&M bags. Oh, you're speaking my language, sweetheart. Look at that. Yes. All right. Let's talk about some other qualities. Feminine is nurturing and masculine is the providing energy. Women actually get energized by nurturing. We get our energy from nurturing ideas and children and coworkers and girlfriends and our spouses. We really get energized by that nurturing. I want you to think about that. Like when you have an idea and you start like massaging that idea and letting that idea breathe and come to life, and you're very careful about who you share that idea or that dream with, you're in nurturing mode. And it's really exciting and it's really energizing. For masculine, nurturing is really draining. It takes a whole lot of energy to be nurturing as a man. They want to be in that provider and that protector energy for their family. Now, nurturing and providing they look like the same tasks, but they're done in different energies and in different intentions. So, can I give you an example of what that could look like? Nurturing versus providing. Okay, David, I can see you on camera. Will you just nod for me? Oh, maybe he's frozen. Okay, somebody's nodding to me, so I'm going to assume that's permission. So thank you. So let's say you're making dinner for your family and it's summertime. So we got lots going on in the evening. So we got soccer practice and we got to go over here and we got to go over there. So we got to have a really easy, simple, fast dinner. So we're going to make tacos for dinner tonight. So we're thinking about the kids and where we need to get them and who needs to be where. We're doing the meat, we're chopping up the lettuce and we're like, okay, but I know Tommy doesn't like tacos so much. Well, Tommy can fend for himself. We've got PB&J in the pantry. He can grab that and he can eat. And then we can get on with the rest of our evening. All right. While you're making dinner, you're providing a meal for your family. All right. That's the task. And that's the energy that you're in when you're providing it. When you're in the nurturing energy, you're doing the same task, but there's a different energy behind it. It's okay. We've got a whole lot of stuff to do tonight. And so we're going to have a really simple meal, but I want to make sure that the kids have something in them. So they've got some energy in them and they actually get some real food for once today. And I really want to gather around everybody around the table just for a couple of minutes so we can connect for minutes and talk and get on the same page. And so I'm going to do the meat. And I know little Janie really loves tacos, so she's going to be excited. But no, Tommy doesn't love tacos so much, but that's okay because he loves PB&J. And I know we have that in the pantry. So I'll just put that out on the table and he can go ahead and make himself a sandwich so that everybody's fed. We can spend a few minutes together and then off we go. Same task, different energies. One of it you're in providing and the other you're in nurturing. Isn't that super cool? Like that's the being energy versus the doing energy. It's so much fun. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Next one. Oh, somebody needs to hear this. Somebody needs to hear this. Sorry, my intuition was like, you can't move quite yet. This nurturing and providing energy really doesn't have anything to do with gender roles necessarily or stereotypes. So I know a lot of women that brought their husbands home, and I'm also a woman who brought her husband home from work, not because I wanted to retire him, because I actually think that's a really bad idea to bring your husband home and you go to work and he doesn't have anything to do. I've seen lots of marriages implode because of that, just because of the way that we're wired. But a few years ago, our youngest child, our little girl, had some pretty serious health and mental health issues. And that was right when business was just booming and I was scaling and I was taking her to doctor after doctor and specialist after specialist 3 and 4 times a week. And I told my husband, I don't know how much longer I can do this, but I know I'll do this until the day I die because I love our daughter so much. I want to make sure that she gets healthy. But I just want you to know you're going to have to scrape me off the floor every couple of days because I just don't know how long I can sustain this. So I was just being really vulnerable. I wasn't complaining or anything because I mean, moms and dads, like you cut off your hand if that would help your child, if that's what it came to. And that's where I was. And my husband came home not too long after that. And he said, I really think I need to quit my job and I need to take over all of your household duties. And our daughter's name is Peyton. I need to take over Peyton and make sure that her care is taken care of so that you can scale this business. Because he was in a job that was going nowhere. He wasn't happy. He was coming home angry and frustrated every night anyway. So his soul was being crushed in the process. And it was really scary. It was really scary to go from 2 incomes to 1, but my company was just booming. So I knew that we would be okay financially. My biggest concern though, was that I would become a man again. And it's no man wants to be married to a dude. No straight man wants to be married to a dude. And even homosexual couples, who is the feminine, who is the masculine in that relationship. You got to have both. And I didn't want to go back into being masculine and providing for the family. I was really, really nervous about that. So I was talking with another man actually who's quite in tune with his feminine actually. And it was such a blessing to talk to him. And he said, Allyson, that's not what's going on at all. Those are just roles. Those are just gender roles and stereotypes. He's still providing for you. What he's providing for you is the emotional support that you need. He's taking care of the laundry. He's taking groceries off your hands and meal plan and prep and your daughter and her care. He's providing that for you so that you have space to create the life you want for your family. And I was like, that's exactly what's happening. Oh, thank you. So I could still be nurturing and not go back into that masculine energy. And it's been beautiful. It has been, there are so many miracles that have happened bringing him home. And that was 3 years ago, and our daughter just turned 17 and she's doing really, really well. And she's healthy. And it's so beautiful. But the nurturing and the providing are not necessarily gender specific roles. They're not at all. They're just different energies. So if we've got women that are making more money than the man, or you're the sole income earner in that relationship, you can still absolutely be living in your feminine, and he can still be absolutely living in his masculine and have it work really, really well. Okay. Somebody needed that. Oh, Mitch, thank you. All right. Feminine is all about community or we, and masculine is all about the individual or I. Okay. So I have a quick question for people who are online. So I can go, I'm going to say it quickly. Brevity, Allyson, diffused awareness. I was going to give you all the details. I'll get to the point for you men. Are we all still tracking this? Like, am I okay to share with you some more data and some more statistics? And is everybody finding value in this? Or you're like, wrap it up. We got a TV program to watch. We're still good. Okay. Fantastic. I love it. Okay. I'm going to take a drink and away we go. And I see that Dave is outside, and I love that. He's out enjoying some nature and some beautiful weather. So that's fantastic. All right. So I do want to dive into a little bit of this, the community versus the individuality, the we and the I of feminine and masculine, because here's where you really see how women have been masculinized. David says, share more. And Vera says, please. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you. I'm so glad you're finding value in this. Women actually crave community. We're wired for community. But at this level of excellence that we live, or this level of success that we live, women tend to lone wolf it. And we don't work super well in teams. Ladies, can you relate to that? Put a 1 in the chat if you can relate to that, ladies. Do you lone wolf it? More often than not. April's being honest and vulnerable. Thank you, April, for your honesty and your vulnerability. Yeah. Denise is lone wolfing it. Yeah, I see it all the time. We crave community, but at this level, we're like, it's just easier and faster if I do it myself. And it's lonely at the top, and like all of those cliches that we've been taught all of our life, but we are wired for community because community is connection. Luann Brizadine wrote a book called The Female Brain. She also wrote a book called The Male Brain. Fascinating reads. And she said that women in our brain have we've got bigger communication centers in our brain than men. Nobody is surprised by that. And there's actually more neural connectors and more like receptor sites for connection that there are in women than in men. Now, what happens is talking activates pleasure circuits, or the pleasure centers in our brains, for women and for girls. It's why we love girls' nights so much. It's why lunch with my girlfriends or lunch with other high vibe women is my most favorite thing to do, because it is so feminine, and there are things that are happening physiologically in our bodies and in our brains when that happens. So when we're connecting as women and we're talking, we get a huge rush of 2 chemicals. We get oxytocin and we get dopamine. Now, dopamine, if we're going to put these into masculine and feminine, dopamine is the masculine hit that we get. It is connected with motivation and accomplishment. It's why you love your to-do lists. Or maybe you don't love them, but you write stuff on your to-do list that you already know you're going to do, just so you can scratch it off your to-do list, because you get a dopamine hit when you do that. Am I right or am I right? Yes. Yes. Of course we do. Like if we know darn well we're going to take a shower, we still write take a shower so we can cross it off. All right. But we get these huge hits of dopamine when we're in conversation with women. And we also get a huge rush of oxytocin. And oxytocin is the queen of all hormones. Oxytocin is an amazing hormone regulator. Now, I'm going to get too much into the hormones and I'll spare you men, but you'll actually love this, men, because hormones will regulate, or oxytocin will regulate all other hormones, because oxytocin is the hormone that's released for bonding, connection, and intimacy, not sex, but intimacy. It's why when you have a conversation with your spouse and then she's just like, I feel so close to you, and a lot of times it will lead to sex, it's because she's been just bathed in oxytocin. And that's a level of intimacy. That's the intimacy hormone. It's the hormone of connection. It's also called the cuddle hormone. So when you'll cuddle with your wife or even hug your wife, it takes about 20 seconds if you're cuddling with somebody or hugging someone for oxytocin to be released. So just watch, like just stand there for 20 seconds and you'll find that it gets harder to break the hug with somebody that you're close to, because now oxytocin is getting flooded in both of your brains and in your bodies. Men have oxytocin as well, but that's the cuddle hormone. And when we ladies get together and we gab, we are just flooded in these real good hormones of dopamine and oxytocin. This is actually the biggest oxytocin rush that we can have outside of, well, I'm sorry, this is too much information, but outside of orgasm, that oxytocin rush that we get from talking is the biggest rush that we get, because our brains are wired, the pleasure centers in our brains just fire when we're talking, we're having really great conversation with, and it doesn't just have to be with women, but when we're having conversations that are really beautiful to us, when we're in our feminine, we get really playful, we're connecting, we're bonding. We absolutely love it. And men, you do too, because more deals are made on the golf course than are made in the boardroom. So, and men actually intuitively do this more than women do, as they get into play and they get into that connection through sports and through play. And that's where that connection happens a lot with men as well as on that golf course. So there were a bunch of studies that were done with little girls and how little girls would play together. And these are like little 3 and 4-year-old girls. And what they found was that these little girls would just naturally create a little community. They did not like confrontation. They didn't like conflict of any kind. So they would pick their roles through permission and through like not negotiation, but conversation. They say things like, I'll be the teacher, okay? They wouldn't be like, you're the student, I'm the teacher. I'll be the teacher, okay? They were all very agreeable, and at their core was social connection. These are in little 3 and 4-year-old preschool girls, all right? They did the same with little preschool boys. Do you think that the study was the same for little boys? No. All right, I have 4 younger brothers and I made 3 sons of my own. That is not how little boys are wired at all. When they would play together, they would threaten each other. They would brag. They used their language to command each other. They'd interrupt each other. They ignored other people's input. They had no risk of conflict whatsoever. They did not care. Competition was part of their makeup. Not so in little girls. Girls react to relationship stress. Those of you who have teenage girls, like 8th grade girls, like, holy cow, if you can get a girl through 13 and 14, you're golden. But you remember that, the angst you had, the biggest problem at school is that the girls wouldn't talk to you, or you got cast out of your social group as a girl. Relationship stress is the biggest stress that adolescent girls have. And as women, it's very important that we're liked and we're socially connected, not because we need to climb any social ladders. Really, that's not why. It's because at our core, as women, we are wired for community. We're wired for that connection and the collective we. Now, boys react to challenges to their authority. They don't care so much about fitting in any sort of a group. They don't like their authority being challenged. And in men, what's important to them is that they're respected and that they're seen as higher in the pecking order. So we're different to our very core. Masculine loves that individual. I am staking my claim. And women just really love, can't we just all get along? We can all, like, my whole thing is like, let's all get wealthy together. Like, I don't want to just be me. I don't want to just be you. It's got to be a win-win-win for everybody. And I really believe that to my core. Now, here's where we've gone sideways, ladies. And with business is masculine. And that's fantastic. Like, we need the doing. We got to get the contract signed. We got to get the deals done. We got to have the action. Like, that is really important. But in business, women have been taught to play the game the way that men do. And we can do that really well, because one thing that women have is an enormous ability to adapt really quickly to any situation. We'll adapt to what we think is most valuable. So if we think efficiency is the most valuable thing, then we'll be really efficient in the workplace. And the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So you're really efficient at home because you were really valued. That's really valued at the workplace. So we can play like the boys, but man, it takes such a toll out of us because we crave connection to girlfriends. We crave collaboration over competition. But because we've been taught, like, this is how you do business and business is masculine, we play like one of the boys. And what this does is it pops us into proving energy. So we're proving our worth, we're proving our value, we're proving that we belong, we have a place at the table, we're proving that we're ballers. Super masculine women are like, I can be a man better than men can be a man. And it's like, whoa, what? Okay, probably, but wow, like, rein it in there a little bit, will you, Daisy? Holy cow. So we get into this playing, like this proving energy, like, hey, we belong here, we can play with the big boys. But what this does as women is it puts us into pushing energy and chasing mode. And then what happens is we get addicted to strategy and we get addicted to dopamine. Now, remember, dopamine, we really love. It's a really great chemical. And we get that when we cross off our to-do lists. It's motivation and it's accomplishment. That's when we get those hits of dopamine. But too much dopamine inhibits oxytocin. So too much dopamine makes it really hard for us to connect. Do I go here? I'm going to go here and just make it a little bit light for a second. Like sometimes are you just like, when your guy just wants to cuddle and wants to be intimate, you're just like, oh God, I've got so much to do. Like, all right, can we just do this, get over with? Like, we have a hard time being present in the moment. Like, hey, if I can put this on my to-do list, then for sure we can be intimate tonight. Because then I can cross that thing off as done. Got his needs met, got to cross another thing off my to-do list, right? Like, but it makes it really hard. It makes this really hard. Too much dopamine inhibits oxytocin. Oxytocin, it makes it hard for us to connect. Makes it hard for us to cuddle. It's like, I can't just sit here and cuddle with you. I've got things to do. And it makes it really hard for us to be in the present moment. So again, if we're playing it like the guys, then we live and die by our to-do list. We are ruled by our to-do list. We feel really rigid all the time. And no matter what we do, we still don't feel like we quite fit. Like, it's something still feels off. So milestones that we reach feel hollow. We have a very short window of celebration if we allow celebration at all until it's off to the next thing that we have to do. Then you think you have to put in twice as much effort to make twice as much money, which is true if you're in masculine, but not true if you're in feminine energy. And I'll explain why in a minute. But at the bottom line is, it's just gross. It's a gross experience. It's gross energy to be in when we have to do it like a man. Now with this fuels men. This is really good for men. It's not good for us. That doesn't mean we don't belong in the marketplace. We do. It doesn't mean we don't have a head for business, but do we have the spirit for business? And I propose that yes, absolutely we do, but we got to get out of our head and into our body. We got to lead with our feminine and tap into our masculine when it's required. And it is required to tap into our masculine throughout the day, but not all day, every day, which is what we've been taught. All right. Feminine is all about receiving and masculine is all about giving. Do you have a hard time receiving? Ladies, do you have a hard time receiving? Maybe says yes. Yeah, like you have a hard time receiving help or compliments. You tend to deflect compliments. Oh, I love your hair. Oh no, I love your hair. Like, oh, we have like, or if somebody gives us something, you're like, oh, please don't give me anything because now I got to give something back to you because we got to keep the score even. all the time. It could even be with like our spouses or our partners. Like we have a hard time receiving. What happens with women is we're not natural givers. All right. We're natural receivers. I want you to think about how your body is built. Your body and your anatomy is built to receive, and a male's body and anatomy is built to give. Men are natural givers. Women are not. We're natural receivers. Now, does this mean that we should just expect our men to give and give and give all the time and we're only ever receiving? No, but our give and receive cycles are off and they're imbalanced. So what we've been taught by culture and by society, especially as women, is that we give and then we give and then we give and then we give some more until we're running on fumes, and then we need to give some more. So we martyr ourselves out for the cause, whether the cause is for our children or the cause is for our business or the cause is for whatever it is. We give until there ain't nothing left to give, and then we continue to give. That is an imbalance in our give and receive cycles, because the more we give without balancing it out with receiving, the more resentful we become, the more martyrish we become, the more masculine we become, and the less people want to be around us. when we behave this way. And it's not your fault, because all we've been taught is masculine. We live in a society that just honors and pays homage to the masculine, and it dismisses and it devalues and it discounts and it makes fun of the feminine, because it just doesn't understand how powerful the feminine is. Men get filled up by appreciation. And so when you really sincerely appreciate your man, it fills them up and it makes them want to give more. So when you appreciate what they're giving to you or what they're doing for you with a sincere thank you, they go, and they try not to smile, but their chest pops up just a little bit, and then they want to do more for you because appreciation fills him up. Like, that's how you give to a man, is by actually letting him serve you and by receiving what he wants to give to you. And when we will receive, what happens with us as women, which is so cool, like we've been taught that receiving is something selfish for us. We've been taught that pleasure and self-care is actually selfish. Society teaches us that until we're like ready to be hospitalized or ready to leave our spouse or like whatever that is, we're a complete mess. Then it's time for us to receive. And no, you actually need to receive first, and then you can give, because this is what happens with women. Because women are wired for connection. When we will allow ourselves to receive whatever that is, whether that's help or compliments or somebody just opening the door for us, even though we don't need them to, but we allow them to serve us in that way, and we receive that self-care, whether it's getting our nails done or taking a nap or dancing or whatever those things are that we really, really love, it starts to bubble in us and it fills our soul and it fills us up and it becomes effervescent, and then it spills out of us. And then because we're wired for connection, we naturally want to share with others. So we're no longer giving service out of obligation or out of resentment or out of guilt. We're doing it because we feel so good and we have so much energy that, yes, of course, I would love to help you with that. There's nothing selfish about filling your own cup for nobody but you. And you serve from the overflow. There's an old saying that says, serve from the saucer, not from the cup. But it's been bastardized because they say, well, fill yourself up, fill your cup up so you can serve others. No. You fill your cup up for you. But then it just gets frothy and it bubbles over, and then you serve from that overflow and you give from that overflow. And this is a natural occurrence for you ladies. So you don't have to worry about, if I follow my desires and I actually do what I want, I'm going to be so selfish and I'm going to abandon my family. I'm going to turn to sex and drugs and I'm going to implode in my life. You won't. And just trust it. But do you see how we've been taught not to trust the feminine? And we feel so guilty when we're receiving. We feel so guilty. And then we have to justify our play day. We have to justify pleasure. Like, oh, and there's just so much guilt. But our giving and receiving cycles are off. So we got to get them balanced. And then there's so much more of you to give, and so much more. And I don't know if any of you have noticed, I've been talking about this. When I talk about like filling yourself up, I get more and more animated, and it fills us up and it makes us something that's called radiant. And men don't have this. Men give it to us. Our radiance, we have a natural radiance that men don't have. I have seen and met really, really good looking men, but I would never describe them as radiant. But I have seen women and connected with women who, by society standards, would be average, who are radiant and so beautiful in their radiance. And that is an inherently feminine quality. And everybody around them is blessed by their radiance. But what happens is when we continue to live in our masculine and very occasionally tap into our feminine, if at all, it robs us of our radiance. So women that are high achievers that only live in their masculine, you would describe them as very successful, very accomplished, but never radiant, because they're not radiant. That's been sucked out of them. And then it starts to kill us. I'm going to share with you one more quick fact about testosterone. Men have 16 times more testosterone that naturally occurs in their bodies than women. And men get a hit of testosterone every 15 minutes. So a very short man will actually be a whole lot physically stronger than a woman who is much taller and much bigger than he is, because he has more testosterone than she has. When women have testosterone, it comes from two places in our body. It comes from our ovaries and it comes from our adrenal glands. And when it comes from our adrenals, we get a shot of adrenaline with it as well. And if we live in that constant production achievement, go, do, push of testosterone, which is like the get her done hormone, it wears out our organs. That's why you see many more women in adrenal fatigue or blowout than you'd see men, because we're flooding our systems with testosterone, and that's not good for our systems to be in so much testosterone, because we're in adrenaline, which then also raises our cortisol. So now we're in fight or flight all the time. Like, this is the price that we're paying for living in masculine energy all the time in an unbalanced way. It's so scary. All right, last one, and my favorite one. Feminine energy is about experience, and masculine energy is about execution. What do you want to experience throughout the day as you're executing on those tasks is the easiest way that I can describe that. That's how you live in your feminine and tap into your masculine. What do you want to experience? Is it just like, let's just do this day and get it over with already? Or what do you want to experience throughout the day? I think that we are consumed by execution. I know we are. We're consumed by execution, by production, and by achievement, and that vicious cycle. And we've forgotten how to live, and we've forgotten how to dream. And we don't know how to be. Instead, we're in this get it done energy all the time. So what happens if nothing changes? Men want a feminine female. Men don't want a masculine woman. And if you continue to show up in your masculine all the time, what happens? Well, we know this by the data and the research. It leads to cheating. It leads to affairs. It leads to divorce. And if it doesn't lead there, you're certainly disconnected. You're living as roommates, these parallel lives, and nobody is filled up. So you're getting your emotional needs met in other ways. Your health goes down the toilet if nothing changes. You can't sleep, you can't eat, or you're overeating. You're in adrenal fatigue. You're in brain fog. Sometimes you become a functioning alcoholic. And then a not so functioning alcoholic, which is one of my dearest friends, is going through right now because she didn't know how to live in feminine. You push your kids away because masculine energy is a pushing energy. Feminine energy is a pulling energy. So if nothing changes, you're on this road to continual struggle and suffering. Living, putting off your life at the expense of life happens. Feminine energy is the most powerful, creative energy. It needs masculine energy. It needs it. But of the two energies, feminine is more powerful than the masculine. And we live in a society that absolutely abhors feminine energy. But feminine energy, it's what's going to save you as a woman. It's going to save your relationship if it needs saving, and it's what's going to save the planet. Women aren't going to save the planet, not if they're in masculine energy. Feminine, empowered feminine is what's going to save families and what's going to save this planet. And ladies, if you would like to have a deeper dive into how to live in the feminine, here's what I want you to do next. Before I dive there, though, I have to tell you what feminine energy is and isn't. Feminine energy is not being girly. You can put on the pink feather earrings and put on a pink tank top and go to the gym and be just as a man as everybody else at the gym. You can be girly and completely work in your masculine, push, do all the time. Living in your feminine is not a one and done. This is a process. And this takes time to retrain yourself living in feminine. You don't trust it, ladies. Or you'll easily think that you'll be in feminine when you're still actually in masculine. You need somebody that's going to point out your blind spots, who can shortcut you and get you into feminine faster so that you see results faster. Because here is a truth: money follows feminine. Money does not follow masculine energy. Money follows feminine energy. And that is a truth. And that's a universal truth, which means no matter what mankind has to say about it, it is immutable and irreversible. It's a universal truth that money follows feminine. So I have created an event, and this is just for the ladies. So the men, if you've been on here and you're like, holy cow, I want to send my colleague here, or I want to send my wife here, like she could really use this. I could really use her learning this. I'm putting an event. I do it every other month. It's called the Feminine Factor. And it's a 2-day live event in the Grand America in downtown Salt Lake City. Our next event is coming up July 12th and 13th, or we have one September 21st and 22nd. I'm only doing 3 more events this year of the Feminine Factor. We're going to spend 2 days deep diving into the femininity of money. We're going to learn feminine success power tools, because you want to know how to get it done and get it done faster, but we're going to show you how to do it in feminine energy, how to get out of grind and into flow. I want to show you how I make $150,000 in a month in ease and flow, rather than struggling and toiling and efforting myself to death, which is what I used to do for $10,000 months. It's so much more fun to do it the way that I know how to do it now. You're going to learn how to end hustle and burnout once and for all, living in feminine and tapping into masculine, what that actually looks like, and also what it looks like to lead with your intuition and really trust your intuition. At the end of the day, I want you to know how to live in your feminine and tap into masculine, because when you do that, your energy increases, your vitality increases, your health, your love for life increases, your money increases. If any of you want to add a 0 to your income in the next year, learning how to do this in feminine, it gives you a much higher likelihood of that happening. So normally the investment for this event is $1497, but I really, really appreciate your time here with me. That's the one resource that isn't renewable. And so those of you who are here with me today, or you're watching the replay, I want to invite you for $497. You're going to go to prosperityapproach.com/live and fill everything out. And at the very, very bottom, right before you check out, it's going to ask for the promo code. And the promo code is LIVE, all in caps. Make sure it's all in caps, LIVE. Thank you so much, Mitch, for putting that in the chat. I appreciate it. And then that's going to give you that great savings of $1,000. We're going to feed you an amazing lunch both of those days. If you've never been to the Grand, you ain't never lived yet. So we got to get you at the Grand, and we're going to show you what it looks like to experience living in the feminine. We're going to take you in a deep dive. This is a very small event. So I want you to know seats are very, very limited. I capped this off at 20. I don't want to teach a room full of 100 women because I can't connect with you. You won't get vulnerable with me in a room full of 100 women. You got way too much. You got way too much to protect. So the seats are very limited. We're about half full right now. And so if you want to come in July, if July is not going to work, you can get your ticket now, because I'd rather you pay $497 than $1497 for it. And you can pick September or November if that's going to work for your schedule this year, if July is not going to work. Crystal says, this explains so much. I'm so successful on paper and have been, but relationships, I have failed. I feel lost. oh, Crystal, we found you. And you don't need to be lost any longer. And you're not as lost as you think you are. It's not as hopeless as you think. And come play with me. Come be in my energy. Come let me pour into you. You're going to get a playbook. You're going to get great lunch. You're going to, oh, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And I would love, love, love to spend that time with you in that event. So again, go to prosperityapproach.com/live, scroll all the way to the bottom, put promo code LIVE in there, LIVE, so that you can get that discount. And men, send your women here. I would love to spend time with them, because I know if you're on this call, you've got a pretty amazing woman that's in your life. And if you think that would be valuable for her, I would love to meet her and love to see how I can help her as well. So I'd love to stay connected. Mitch Maeli, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So if anybody has any questions, we can just pop those in the chat. Just one more time, prosperityapproach.com/live, and the promo code is LIVE. And that promo code is going to be live for the next 48 hours. So hop on that. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. You can shoot me an email, Allyson@AllysonChavez.com. I'm so happy we got to be connected. Thank you so much for letting me serve you this way tonight. I told you I could talk about this for days and days. I did go over a few minutes. I hope that's okay. But thank you for being here with me and letting me play with you tonight. It has been such an honor, such a pleasure.
Oh, well, everyone give her a round of applause, whether it's in the chat or just so incredible. Honestly, the information. I remember when I had first met you, a few months ago, I literally went, what? Why have I not known this my whole life? Right. And it's so easy to check out of that. And so having you on tonight did it again, right? And it reminded me of a lot of little things that start to creep in, right? And so it is. I love that you said that it's a process, and it's not something that we're going to immediately be this amazing, at, but it is something that we can work on, and being reminded and surrounding ourselves with like-minded women that are on this call and men that will support that. Oh, I'm just so grateful. So thank you so much for being here and enlightening us with all of your wonderful knowledge. This is a huge gift, guys. Like, I hope you realize that Allyson has been on, multiple news stations and been showcased all over the nation. She is such an inspiration to so many people. So to have her on our call, it's just, we're so blessed. So thank you again. Love you.
Well, do you know what? I'm the one that feels so blessed. So thank you. Thank you. This is my favorite thing to do. I was telling Mitch and Maeli before we started, today's my birthday. And I deliberately picked this day to do this call because I was like, this is my favorite thing to do, is to share this information with people and to share this message. So this is like my favorite birthday present. So thank you. Thank you, Mark, for that. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And David, where can guys get more information? And so that is such a fantastic question. And if you want to shoot me an email, I know some really great guys in the business that work with men and work with women. And I'm so happy to connect you with them for sure. I just work specifically with women just because I'm a woman and I know how we're wired and how we're ticked and how we tick. And so I know that if I can help you to heal, that she can bring that home and help her heal and help relationships heal and all of that as well. But I'm so happy to connect you with other people in the industry that work with men as well. Yeah. So shoot me an email, Allyson@AllysonChavez.com, or I don't know, can you guys put my handles on places so people can just, I have a podcast as well. It's called The Prosperity Approach. So you can find me there too. And then we can connect that way as well. I love that.
Perfect. We definitely will. We'll attach it to the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. We're very grateful. Give a nice love.
Thank you. Love to you all. Good night.